If you're over 60, alone, and broke, this may be the most important video you watch this year. Because first, I want you to hear something that doesn't get said nearly enough. You are not the only person in this situation. Millions of people reach their 60s with less money than they expected. Some went through divorce. Some faced medical bills. Some lost jobs late in life. Some spent years caring for family members instead of building retirement savings. And some simply had life happen in ways they never planned. The problem is that many people feel so embarrassed about their situation that they stop looking for solutions. They convince themselves it's too late to improve their finances, too late to rebuild their lives, too late to create a better future. But that's simply not true. No, you're probably not going to become a millionaire overnight. And no, this isn't one of those videos promising some magical shortcut. Instead, this is a practical roadmap. 7 things you can start doing right now if you're over 60, alone, and struggling financially. These steps won't solve everything instantly, but they can help you create more stability, more confidence, and most importantly, more hope. Let's start with step number 7. Face the numbers honestly. This is where many people get stuck, not because they can't handle the numbers, but because they're afraid of what they'll find. So they avoid checking bank balances, they ignore bills, they postpone looking at debt, and they avoid creating a complete picture of their finances. The problem is that uncertainty creates more fear than reality. When you don't know exactly where you stand, your mind often imagines situations that are worse than the truth. That's why the first step is simple. Write everything down. How much money do you have? What income comes in each month? What debts do you owe? What are your monthly expenses? What benefits are available to you? No guessing, no estimates, no avoiding uncomfortable information, just facts. Because once you know the numbers, you can start making decisions, and decisions create progress. Many people actually feel relief after doing this exercise because for the first time, they stop worrying about unknowns and start working with reality. The next step is creating a bare minimum budget. Notice I didn't say a perfect budget. I didn't say a complicated budget. I said a bare minimum budget. This means identifying the absolute essentials required to live. Housing, utilities, food, transportation, healthcare. Those basics come first. Everything else comes later. The goal here is not to create a miserable life. The goal is to identify what your financial survival number actually is. How much money do you truly need every month to remain stable? Many people are surprised when they calculate this number. Some discover they're spending more than they realized on non-essential items. Others discover they're actually closer to stability than they thought. Either way, clarity creates control. And when you're financially stressed, control is incredibly valuable. A bare minimum budget also gives you a target. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by every expense, you know exactly what needs to be covered first. Now let's move to step number 5. Reduce your biggest expense. A lot of people try to improve their finances by cutting tiny expenses, skipping coffee, canceling one subscription, looking for small discounts. And while those things can help, they rarely create major change. Real financial improvement often comes from addressing the largest expense in your life. For many people, that's housing. Maybe you're living in a place that no longer fits your budget. Maybe you're paying for more space than you actually need. Maybe there are opportunities to reduce costs that you've never seriously considered. Now, I'm not saying everyone should move immediately, but I am saying it's worth honestly evaluating your biggest expenses, because reducing a major monthly cost often creates far more financial breathing room than cutting dozens of small expenses. And the same principle applies beyond housing. Look at whatever category consumes the largest portion of your income. That's usually where the biggest opportunities exist. Now let's talk about step number 4. Find additional income. I know some people immediately dislike hearing this. They think I'm over 60, I shouldn't have to work anymore. And that's understandable. But the reality is that additional income can dramatically improve your situation. Even a few $100 extra per month can reduce financial pressure significantly. The good news is that earning income today doesn't always look like a traditional full-time job. Some people do part-time work. Others consult using skills they've built over decades. Some provide tutoring, pet sitting, customer service, seasonal work, freelance projects. The goal isn't necessarily to work forever. The goal is to create flexibility, because every additional dollar earned is a dollar that doesn't need to come from savings or debt. And beyond the financial benefits, many people discover that having meaningful work improves confidence, structure, and social connection as well. Now let's move to step number 3, protect your health. This is one area where many people make a costly mistake. They delay medical appointments, skip medications, ignore symptoms, or avoid preventative care because they're worried about spending money. But poor health often becomes far more expensive than preventative care ever would have been. Your health affects your ability to earn income, manage your household, remain independent, and enjoy life. Protecting your health does not mean spending money recklessly. It means being proactive, keeping medical appointments, following treatment plans, staying physically active, eating as well as your budget allows, getting enough sleep, and paying attention to small health problems before they become major ones. One of the biggest advantages you can have later in life is maintaining your independence, and good health plays a huge role in that. Many people focus so heavily on their finances that they forget their health is one of their most valuable assets, because if your health collapses, almost every other part of life becomes harder. So take care of yourself, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Now let's move to step number 2, build new relationships. This is especially important if you're living alone. Loneliness is often treated like an emotional issue, but it can become a financial issue too. People who are isolated are more vulnerable to depression, more vulnerable to scams, more vulnerable to unhealthy habits, and more likely to lose motivation. The truth is that human beings are not designed to go through life completely alone. We need connection, conversation, community, support. That doesn't mean you need dozens of close friends, and it doesn't mean you need a huge social circle, but you do need people. Many retirees find new friendships through volunteer work, church groups, community centers, exercise classes, libraries, hobby clubs, local events, part-time jobs, and sometimes simply reaching out to old friends. The hardest part is often taking the first step, because after years of isolation, many people become uncomfortable putting themselves out there. But almost everyone feels that way at first. The important thing is to start somewhere. Even one meaningful connection can make an enormous difference. It can improve your mood, reduce stress, increase confidence, and remind you that you're not facing life's challenges completely by yourself. Now we've reached the most important step on this list. Step number 1. Create a reason to look forward to tomorrow. This might sound simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Many people who are struggling financially become trapped in survival mode. They focus on bills, problems, stress, and worries about the future, day after day, month after month. Eventually, life becomes nothing more than managing difficulties, and that's dangerous because people need hope. They need purpose. They need something that pulls them forward. That's why creating a reason to look forward to tomorrow is so important. For some people, it's a personal goal. For others, it's learning a new skill, starting a small project, growing a garden, writing a book, volunteering, taking care of grandchildren, joining a community group, planning a future trip, or simply working toward a healthier version of themselves. The specific goal doesn't matter nearly as much as having one, because purpose changes how people experience hardship. When you have something meaningful to work toward, challenges feel temporary. Without purpose, even small problems can feel overwhelming. One of the most inspiring things you'll notice about resilient older adults is that they continue building futures for themselves. Even in their 70s, even in their 80s, they continue learning, growing, contributing, planning, dreaming. They refuse to believe their story is over. And that's an attitude worth adopting. Because being over 60 does not mean your best days are automatically behind you. Being broke does not mean you're out of options. And being alone does not mean you have to stay that way forever. Life may not look the way you expect it, but that doesn't mean you can't improve it. Step by step, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one day at a time. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more retirement advice, financial guidance, and life lessons. And let me know in the comments, which of these 7 steps do you think is the most important for someone who is over 60, alone, and struggling financially?